Hello everyone, I'm Jose Stevens, and I'm here with Mona Polacca, who is one of the 13 Indigenous grandmothers, and she is the recipient of the Eagle Feather Award given by the Society for Shamanic Practice for the year 2018. And Mona, it's a privilege to be here with you, and I'd like to ask you some questions about a great many things, actually. And the first thing I'd like to ask you is, well, tell us a little bit about the 13 Indigenous grandmothers, what their mission is, how that all came about, and how you became part of it.
The 13 Indigenous, it's called the International Council of 13 Indigenous Grandmothers, and we met for the first time in October 2004. And what it was a gathering of Western women having dialogue with Indigenous women to talk about what our concerns are about the world today. And there were invitations sent out to Indigenous women. Over 20 invitations went out throughout the world. And out of those invitations, there were 13 of us that accepted the invitation. And so we met for the first time in Phoenicia, New York at a retreat center called Menla Retreat Center. It's a Buddhist retreat center. And so we met there, and it was at that meeting. We spent 4 days talking about various issues, and so when we finished, one of the grandmothers was talking, and she said, well, next time we meet. And every now and then they would say next time we meet. And I raised the question of, did I miss something? Because, I didn't expect that this was going to be, an ongoing kind of meeting. And so then what we did, we do everything by consensus. So what we did was we went around the room, each grandmother had an opportunity to express herself about this question. And so they, every one of the grandmothers said, yes, we must continue this work. We must continue to have this discussion. We must continue to be present with what's happening today. We can't come together and talk about these issues and then go home. Mm-hmm. We must do something about it. And so it was at that time that all of the grandmothers all agreed that yes, we must go ahead and continue, that we must go ahead and make some plans for future meetings. And so it was at that time we all went into a working session and developed our mission statement. And our mission statement is to promote peace, to promote peace in the world, to promote the protection and preservation of our earth-based medicines. Mm-hmm. And as well, and then also to preserve and to continue to pass on the indigenous spiritual practices. We know that there are many pharmaceutical companies that have been taking, coming into indigenous lands and territories and taking the medicines and then patenting them, which then forbids the indigenous people from using their own medicine. Also over harvesting. The other one was our concern about our youth, and making sure that that they became participants in what we were doing, and so so that was part of how we were talking about our preserving our culture and the spiritual practices and beliefs. So that was basically what we came out with and drafted that mission statement. You know, we're still, you know, involved in it. Unfortunately, we have 3 of our grandmothers have passed on, and so there's only 10 of us now. And besides that, some of the grandmothers are up in their age, so some of them can't travel, maybe because of different kinds of health issues. They can't travel anymore. So,
are there some kind of plans for others to come up through the ranks, maybe, and fill their positions?
Yeah, we've talked about that. Succession. We talked about succession.
Yeah.
And the grandmothers have decided that they wouldn't have succession.
Oh. Okay.
But what we do have are ambassadors. Ambassadors are kind of like this next part of the circle.
Yeah.
And so these are grandmothers too.
Some of our members wanted to know how you felt about the future of the world, the situation in the world right now, very difficult, and how you were feeling about, you know, where things are going and what gives you hope.
One thing that I was told as I was growing up by my elders was that we should always have hope, and that these things, you know, I was told that these things that are happening now were going to happen, and but still have hope, and that one of the biggest, and this is part of what the grandmothers say as well, is that we must pray. That prayer is the first thing that we should have out there, and that some of the things that are happening, I mean, I wish it wouldn't be happening the way it is. I'm very, I can't believe that, you know, that people who are, you know, humans don't look at all people as being human, and that there's value to everyone's life, that whatever you do has an impact on the next person. You know that. And this is what my mother told me when I was about 13. She said, "You're not in this world for nothing. That you know, you have a purpose in life, and that you must always, you know, you're not here just for yourself. There's, you know, there's others around you. You know, your family, your immediate family, your, you know, your all your relatives, and then your community, and then your, you know, your people, and then, you know, your nation, and then the world. We're all connected, and that you must care for all those things, all of those people, and pay attention to what you do, because what you do affects everyone else. It's like a chain, she said. So I grew up with that instruction.
Yeah.
And I hold it, all the instructions that were given to me as I was growing up. I've held them, you know, and believe in them, you know, and I never questioned it, never doubted it, that, you know, this is the way it is, and so I'm careful about what I do, what I say. That's also what she told me, you know, be careful what you do, what you say, where are you at, wherever you're at, you know, be careful. And so she said, because, you know, even though you what you never ever think of yourself as being out there in the world alone, because you're not. You got all these different connections, you know, out there in the world and with others. And so you know, those were the things, you know, my instructions, and she told me about some of these things that were going to come and happen, things that were going to happen, and she said there was a time when, you know, we had these different messengers that would come to the people, and they would give us a message, tell us what's coming, and how, you know, how to maintain balance in these times of change, in the change, to maintain balance, and so, you know, she told me those things, and so it's like right now, what I see happening, you know, with the environmental degradation that's going on all over the world, and how there are certain people who are put into positions of power, who are you know, who are destroying so much of the beauty of this, you know, this creation, the world, the earth, and so, you know, I keep thinking, I keep praying that those people will somehow wake up.
Yeah.
You know, somehow wake up, and sometimes I do think, you know, I mean, we have, what are we going to do? We're going to wait until something, you know, until something happens. And we're told that it's not necessary, you know, whatever's going to happen is going to be an act of natural law. That we as human beings, we have all these different laws and things like that. That's nothing compared to what happens when the law of nature takes over. And when the law of nature takes over, there's nothing that a human being can do to stop it.
Yeah.
And so, so these are some of the things that I think of when it comes to what's happening today. Like some of the elders, they would say things like, they'll say things like, we try to say something, we try to tell them, but they didn't listen.
Mm-hmm.
And so, they'll have to find out. That's what the elders would say. You're going to find out. Okay. So, it's unfortunate that other people get, caught up in that, what ends up happening. But that's what, that's what's going to happen. That's what's happening. I don't think it's going to happen. It's already happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
You're kind of anticipating some of the questions that are ahead, which is good here. Some people want to know the role of prayer, or what you could say about prayer.
Oh yeah.
And you already touched on that a little bit, but maybe you'd like to say a little more about that.
Well, prayer is, as one of the grandmothers said, one of our late grandmother, when Beatrice, she would say, prayer is all we have.
Yeah.
Prayer is all we have. And so the way I understand is that prayer is the first thing you put out there in front of you. The prayer is like an arrow. You put it in front of you. You make your prayer and you put it in front of you, and you walk behind it. That prayer is going to clear the way. So that prayer is making a way for you, and as long as you just follow behind it, it's gonna be all right. Sometimes you make a prayer and then kind of like forget about the prayer and just kind of like do something else.
Yeah.
And that's not right. Your prayer isn't going to be answered, I guess you might say.
Yeah.
So prayer for me, the first thing every day is to greet this day and say thank you.
Yeah.
In prayer. Thank you. Greet the day. To greet the air, the sun, the water, the earth. To greet them, give thanks for them, and then even if that's all you pray about and giving thanks, that's the best thing to do.
Yeah.
That's the best thing to do, is to make that prayer for those divine elements, the divine elements of life. And that way, the way I understand is in that way, it's like the path is open to you.
Yeah.
So that's how I think about prayer. Very, very important. I really believe in my prayers. One story that this one elder said to me was, he said, someone asked him one time, "Do you really believe your prayers are strong?" And the elder said, "Yes, of course. If I didn't believe my prayers were strong, I wouldn't pray." So, yeah. So, but yeah, that's prayer is really special and good. It's just, it's really. Sometimes people say, "I don't know how to pray." I've met many people. I don't know how to pray, and some of them I say, I tell them, sure you do. There's times when sometimes in a situation and you say, "Help me, God." Mm-hmm. That's a prayer. That's a prayer. And then one time, this one guy, recovering alcoholic, told me that. I told him, "Go ahead and pray." He said, "I don't know how to pray." I said, "Sure you do." He said, "I do? Yeah." I said, "You know the Serenity Prayer?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "That's a prayer. Mm-hmm. Go ahead and say that." So he went ahead and said that prayer.
Yeah.
Some people, they go through motions, but it's not sincere.
Yeah.
It's not sincere. And that's important, is to be sincere about what you're praying about.
So you have a daily practice of prayer?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every day. Every day, the first thing, every day we do this without praying. Every day, we wake up, take a deep breath, get up, go to the water. Mm-hmm. Go to the water, get a drink, take a shower, whatever. Go to the water. Then when it's time to leave your house for the first time in the day, that's the first time you're meeting this day, the new day. When you walk out the door, you walk out that door, and there's the day, there's the sun, there's your path in front of you. And so it's that moment when you're reading the day for the first time. And so you greet it and you bless yourself with it. And so that's how my practice is. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't take much time or anything,
Yeah.
Just making a motion. Yeah. Just making a motion, being thoughtful, about the gratitude for the elements, the water, the air, the fire, the earth, for all of the good elements, the things that give us our everyday life. Every bit of that is our foundation. Mm-hmm. So we should, that should be our first acknowledgement every day. So,
well, it seems clear to me that you've found your medicine path this life. And somebody asked me to ask you, how does one find their medicine path? What would you have to tell them?
I would say the first thing you probably would do, is you make a relationship. Make your relationship with, like I said, the foundations of life, the water, the air, the fire, the earth. make a relationship with it. Know that those things are what give you life. And when you do that, you recognize these things give you life, then you will be open to understanding a little more. But I believe that the first part of the understanding and your developing your spirituality is to begin with those things. Otherwise, that's our foundation.
Mm-hmm.
That's our foundation. The water, the air, the fire, the earth. That's our foundation. If you don't make a relationship with those things and recognize and really realize how valuable they are to you, then anything else that you try to look around and think you're going to grab it and make it you, it doesn't have the connection to that foundation. It has to have that connection to that foundation. That's what I believe.
Yeah, that seems really helpful. Mm-hmm. It's so basic, but people miss it,
Yeah.
They don't get that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's a good reminder.
Yeah. And then when you realize how fortunate we are.
Mm-hmm.
How fortunate we are to have what we have to live.
Well, someone also wanted me to ask you that how do you see the healing between men and women coming about? What needs to happen there, and how can that happen? Because they're so divided. They've been so divided, and of course, women have been so oppressed for so long.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's going to happen again. It's like it's going to happen. It's happening already.
Mm-hmm.
It's happening already. Now's the time. And I guess one of the things to consider is that not to have any big expectation of how that's going to change. There's not one event that's going to shift it.
Yeah.
It's shifting now. I was present. I was present at a ceremony in December 2012, and they called it Day 1.
Mm-hmm.
When that turning occurred, where we had been in the solar calendar, and now when that completed, it turned into the lunar calendar, into the feminine.
Yeah.
So now that turning has occurred, and doesn't have anything to do with what a man or a woman does.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, it has to go back to, I think it goes back to, people, we have to sort of like get out of our heads and keep thinking that we're the ones who are doing something.
Yeah.
I mean, we do it. We put things into action. We're being guided. We're being guided. But we must understand that this is all, it's all connected all the way to the universe.
Mm-hmm.
And that has influence. That has influence on what we're doing, how we are. So that turning has occurred, and they say it's a time of the feminine. And the women are now taking care of the fire.
Yes.
I was in a meeting with elders. They call them the timekeepers, sacred timekeepers, from Ecuador, Colombia, Mexico, and Hopi. And they were talking about this, the ancient time. And they talked about how that turning occurred. And these were all men. And they were crying.
Mm.
They were crying because they said, we didn't do all we needed to do. But now it's in this other time, the time of the lunar calendar, and they were talking about how the women are going to move in and take charge. That's where we're at now.
So it's going to happen no matter what.
It's happening.
It's happening.
Yeah, I mean, look at Congress.
Yeah, right. It's true. Yeah, it's happening.
Yeah, look at Congress. There's a whole lot of other things that are happening in the world where the women are stepping up.
Yeah.
What I say is, it's great because, women can be like mama bears. They're like mama bears, and if somebody is coming in to make a mess of their home,
mm-hmm.
their den, she's not going to put up with it. So we're kind of in that, we're in that position now.
Yeah.
With a lot of what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
Where the women have stepped into their power.
Yeah. So.
And I think that there are a lot of. I went to that women's march in Washington, D.C.
Oh yeah.
I was there. It was so huge. It was so huge. There were so many. We were like standing there. And when they were trying to get the march to start, when they started to get the march started, by the time they got the march started, the police shut down the march. Because they said there were more people there than they had a permit to have. And but we marched anyway. But yeah, it was. But there were men and women.
Yeah.
So, I think that. I think there's a small. There's a small number of men who are being resistant.
Yeah.
They're resistant to the change, and just have to, pray for them and one of the, somewhere along the way, what happens with people is that there might be a situation that's going to come up that's going to make them humble.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to be humbled in order to realize things about what you're doing, how you think, and all that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, there's a huge. Everything's changing, and there seems to be a huge interest in young people, not just young people, even in older people, about turning toward this path of indigenous wisdom. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we call it the Shamanic Path. That word is not exactly accurate for all parts of the world, but mm-hmm. It's the word people know. And so what do you make of it all, that this is happening?
I think that I think it's good, and I think that many of these I've heard it called the awakening, the Great Awakening. There's people who are becoming. I mean, some people that I've had contact with will say, I had this dream. It was very powerful. There were things that I was being shown, I was being told. And when I woke up from the dream, I got up and I said, I have to do this. I have to find, that path. I have to do this. So, that's one way people are coming to it.
Yes.
It comes through dreams, and and some people who this one guy, he said he had this dream like that, and he said when he got up, I got to do this. I got to do it, And he said, look at me. I'm some kind of a scientist. That's my profession. But now I'm talking about spirits and
yeah.
about, spirits talking to me in my dream, showing me something I have to make and do. He said, but I had to do it.
Yeah.
There's people who are also people who sometimes friends, that have been people who've been friends for a long time, and finally decide that they want to share some experience with each other, and that's where they make that connection with spirit.
Yeah.
And so there's many different ways, I think that they're probably ways that other ways that people are becoming connected to that. Read a book,
Yeah.
They might read somebody's book and it touches them, wakes them up somewhere. Different things like that. Or even through a movie, that they watch,
So many ways.
Yeah, lots of ways.
So how did you discover the path that you're on? You mentioned your mother as an influence, and there must have been other other influences that helped you or supported you in accomplishing what you have?
Mm-hmm. I'm a Havasupai. Havasupai is the people of the blue water on my mother's side, and we live down at the bottom of the Grand Canyon, and and on my father's side, I'm Hopi and Tewa. Hopi on my paternal grandmother's side, and Tewa on my paternal grandfather's side. And part of in our clan, the clans on my Havasupai side, it's water. I'm from the water. And then on my Hopi side, I'm from the Sun Clan. And then on my paternal grandfather's side, I'm from the Tobacco. Yeah, my mother was she was very important to me in my development. When I was about 13, 14 years old, when I said, when she had that talk with me and told me I was going to end this world for nothing, she was always telling me things. And so she's been like my foundation for that. And then when I was about the same age, 14, 15, 16, that's where I met a Hopi elder. And the Hopi elder then told me about the Hopi prophecy. And so, again, it was like, when he was talking, everything he was saying to me was going into me, and it was like, I would say it was like he planted seeds in me, and I started to. He said, and you will see, these things you will see, and I did see them. So he gave me that worldview, I guess, and in seeing what was going on, what was coming. And then also other elders that I met, they kind of pretty much literally took me under their arm and talked to me, taught me things, told me things. And everything, when they told me these things, all these things they told me became part of me. And one of the elders told me, he said, you are blessed. You're blessed. You have, he said, there's a star up there. There's a star up there that's watching over you. And that you're able to, when you're told these things, you absorb it, it goes into you, you carry it. You're holding that knowledge and, the wisdom that they're giving to you. You're holding it. So it goes in. So that's the way it's been ever since I met these elders, and the things that they said. And I see, I see what's happening. I see the things that they said. And so it was really So those things are where I come from, That's that path. That's the path, my path.
Yeah.
And again, my mother did this to me, and she told me, she said, help your people. Help your people. Help the people. They need your help. You know what to do. You know what to say. Help the people. And I said, okay, Mom. Okay, Mom, I'll help people. And that's, I made that commitment.
Yeah.
And so that's my path. That's what I've been walking.
Yeah.
And there's times when I think, okay, I'm through, I'm done. I just want to go have a regular, sometimes go find an 8 to 5 job. Just go, live like everybody else. But when I think that way, it's just like that. I start getting calls.
Yeah.
We need you to do that. We need you to come here. We need,
Yeah.
And I can't say no.
Yeah.
So that's where I come from.
Yeah.
Those instructions.
So the seeds they planted fertilized in you, and
Mm-hmm.
There's your work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a powerful story.
Yeah.
What do you feel like is important to say right now to the people who are beginning this path? And the times are always changing, so you started this path long ago, but some people are just finding it now.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you think they need to hear from you? You're like, as an advisor, as an elder, what would you say to them?
I think that it's time. It's time for you to recognize and acknowledge yourself, and that you are open to receiving, and that you are going to embrace these ways that are going to help you, but also helping others. But take your time. Don't rush it.
Yeah.
If you learn, maybe you go to a ceremony or whatever, or some experience, and just because you went to one doesn't mean you know everything about it. You need to take time to observe and to honor. That's basically what I would say. It's a gift.
Mm-hmm.
It's a gift to be in this place where you're it's like another level of your mind is being opened, and it's like I guess it's like there's a little opening in your mind, but it's not open wide yet. It's like, okay, let's say, it's like a sprout.
Yes.
That came through, but it doesn't burst out and there's this big tree, and it takes time.
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest lessons in, this path, is to have the patience, to gradually, build that part of your life. Everybody should have a spiritual practice or spiritual life, I believe.
Yeah.
And so as you develop, as you grow into it, then and greet each of these times with joy.
Yeah.
With joy. Be joyful about it. To be, understand it as your growth.
Yeah. Well, it's really an honor for me to sit with you and interview you. You're just clearly, very, very accomplished, and what I would say is a really old soul who's taking care of us. And so I thank you very much for your time, and very glad to meet you.
Thank you. Likewise. I really appreciate the honor of the Eagle Feather Award. It's a surprise. It was a surprise to me, and it was, it's very special to be able to be recognized, by the Society of Shamanic Practices, I'm sure I know your work is important, and that I wish you all the best as you all continue to do your work and carry out your mission. So thank you.
Thank you.